What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. I thought we would start today's video off with a little bit of player trivia, assuming that you didn't recognize the guy in the thumbnail or read the title of the video. Just play along. This player played in 63 games from 2014 to 2018 for 2 different contending teams and played in 9 different playoff games. However, they recorded just 1 hit in that span to go along with a negative 21 OPS+. And even after this, they'd get playing time spots for another 2 years. Before you try to answer, just wonder how in the world a situation like this is possible. A big league roster can be so tenuous for young, unproven guys, so how in the world can someone who clearly can't hit be a major league player for years on end? Baseball is really the only sport where this kind of thing can happen, and the answer is pinch running. Guys used mainly as pinch runners are a rarity nowadays, as even bench pieces are required to be more versatile and bring more weapons to the table. The pure pinch runner is a dying breed, but examples of this still live on in modern baseball. So who fits the bill of my question? A couple players come to mind immediately. Billy Hamilton is probably the craziest speedster in MLB of the 2010s, but he got regular starting reps and never played in a playoff game. Tony Campana is a good guess as well, but his OPS plus of 1 with the Diamondbacks disqualifies him. The fact is, the answer is a true statistical anomaly, and his name is Terrance Gore. Terrance Gore's road to getting to the big leagues was extremely peculiar. He was a 20th round draft pick in 2011, taken mostly for his superb speed, and he showed this off as soon as he began his minor league career. In rookie ball, he'd showcase high on-base percentages, but when he got to single A, his focus mainly became stolen bases, stealing 68 bases in just 128 games in 2013. As he rose through the ranks, his offensive numbers continued to decline while his stolen bases skyrocketed, and it became clear that Gore was a one-weapon player. But that one weapon was absolutely deadly. And because of it, he'd reached the big leagues far before his well-rounded contemporaries. The Royals were in the midst of an AL wildcard push and needed all the help they could get in September of 2014. So, after just 17 AAA games, Gore was thrust to the big leagues, where he became one of the Royals' lethal pinch runners, along with Jared Dyson. Together, the two would steal bags in big spots for the next 2 years, as the Royals went to back-to-back World Series, losing the former and winning the latter. Speed isn't valued nearly as highly in today's modern game compared to the old days of baseball, and many know this by now. But Terrance Gore's speed was transcendent among others, so much so that he became an integral piece of teams vying for a championship even after spending the majority of the season in the minor leagues. Terrance Gore played in 8 playoff games over 2 seasons and even won a World Series ring before he could even manage his first major league hit, which would come 3 seasons later. His 2019 sprint speed of 30.2 feet per second was 4th in the major leagues, trailing only Trey Turner, Byron Buxton, and foolish baseball legend Tim LeCastro, all of whom would be getting starting reps. The list of players with a sprint speed of 30.2 feet per second or higher since 2019 features just 8 players, including Terrance Gore. We know that Gore was among the fastest players in the league, but the real question now becomes, is Gore the biggest anomaly of his class? Let's first look at who has the most stolen bases with the least amount of plate appearances from the year 2010 to now. Is there any modern example of this anomaly outside of Terrance Gore? I decided to scout guys with under 750 plate appearances and at least 35 stolen bases to make this easier, and this is what I found. The stolen base per plate appearance ratio fluctuates, but nobody is even in Gore's stratosphere. He's the only one to steal 40 bases or more with under 100 plate appearances. In fact, the next closest amount is Roman Quinn with 512, and he's still active, so that number could go up. So we now know that no player in the modern era was used as a pure pinch runner to the degree that Terrance Gore was, but what about past eras? To figure this out, let's next do a search on how many players have averaged 1 or more stolen base per plate appearance in their career. Funnily enough, the sample size is still incredibly small at only 16 players qualifying. To make it even more precise, we can scrap out the guys who only stole 5 bases or under, and that leaves just 3 players. Alan Lewis stole 44 bases in 31 plate appearances over 7 years. Herb Washington stole 31 bases and never got a plate appearances over 2 years. And Don Hopkins stole 21 and 8 plate appearances across 2 seasons as well. All 3 of these guys were part of the early 1970s Oakland A's teams who employed track runners on their bench to pinch run and try and steal bases late in games. Combined between them in their careers, the 3 of them played 346 games but registered only 39 plate appearances and stole 96 bases. Alan Lewis won rings with Oakland in 1972 and 1973 before being replaced by Herb Washington in '74 when he won his ring with Oakland. Little sidetrack here on Herb Washington for fun. He was initially signed to a $45,000 no-cut deal with the A's, even though he hadn't played baseball since high school. There was also a clause that said he needed to grow a mustache by opening day, but Herb had a tough time growing facial hair, so he colored in his stubble with eyebrow pencil. The 70s were just another dimension of time compared to ours now. My buddies at Star Curving Sports also did a fun video all about Herb Washington, so if this story interests you, I highly recommend checking that out. So as awesome as this all is, Terrance Gore actually doesn't qualify for the boundary of 1 or more stolen base per plate appearance. That's because of his 2019 season where he got more plate appearances than every other season he played in combined. So to see where he fits in among these speed anomalies in MLB history, let's expand the search once again, this time to out-stealing your plate appearances in just a single season. We'll see Washington, Hopkins, and Lewis again, but this time it's a larger list. We're once again excluding guys with 5 stolen bases or under to make it more precise, and we've got a pretty neat list here. Matt Alexander and Alan Lewis both were able to do this in 3 separate seasons. Alan Lewis and Herb Washington are the only players to ever steal 5 or more bases with 0 plate appearances recorded in a single season. Even Terrance Gore didn't do that. The most modern example I could find was Jesse Garcia in 2001, who had a 1.0 ratio. But in the 20 years since Jesse Garcia, it's only been Terrance Gore, who's done it twice for 2 different teams. As you can guess, most of these guys didn't inspire much confidence when they did get their at-bats, with the second highest OPS being Larry Lintz's OPS of 667 in his 1976 season with, you guessed it, the Oakland A's. Well, all of these players except one, I should say. Matt Alexander actually registered an OPS plus of 217 while also stealing 23 bases and 16 plate appearances from 1979 to 1980. He is the true offensive outlier of the bunch here. The Oakland A's basically perfected this in the 1970s, but it would actually come back to bite them in the long run when Terrance Gore, then a Kansas City Royal, stole game-winning bases against them in the 2014 AL wildcard game, along with Jared Dyson. Baseball's fun. So, is there a point to all of this? Well, no, not really, but you could say that for pretty much every video that I've ever made. But here's a cool takeaway. I mentioned Terrance Gore's 2019 season before, and the non-competitive Royals had Gore back on their roster after his brief stint with the Chicago Cubs that ended in a wildcard loss. He also stole a base in that game. Terrance Gore would actually get regular starts and at-bats for this team, 58 plate appearances total. It doesn't seem like much, but it was more than triple the amount of plate appearances he had gotten from the previous 5 years combined. He would actually go on to bat .275 with a .362 on-base percentage and collect his first big league RBI. Gore obviously didn't have much pop, but I'm really glad that he finally got his shot because he actually wasn't that bad with the bat. So although Terrance Gore will be remembered as a pinch runner extraordinaire, he at least got a taste of well-rounded big league experience. He also might not be done yet, as he ran in 2 games for the Dodgers in 2020 and is currently hanging out in the Braves AAA system, waiting for the call for their eventual playoff push in September. So the legend of Terrance Gore lives on. Speedsters are a rarity in modern MLB, but the pure pinch runner is a dying breed altogether. And if Gore doesn't play this season, it's basically extinct at this point. So let's appreciate history while we're here. And even if you're a Braves fan or not a Braves fan, if Terrance Gore gets the call, I expect you to be watching every time he pinch runs. That's an order. Anyways, that'll do it for this video. I'm the Jolly Olive, and I'll see you guys next time.